weekend, what a day, what a start to the week. Every week it's like so much action, so much content, so much interesting activity going on. So glad to be back and glad to be talking to you. So today I'm going to cover off a couple of things. I'm going to get this much tighter. We're going to try and keep these at 10 minutes, and then I'll open it up for Q&A right at the end of it. So I'm not going to take Q&A anymore in the middle of it. We're going to take it at the end, and I'm just going to go through quick chapters. Today we're going to cover off stablecoins. What's going on in the stablecoin? You saw some great announcements. We'll cover that off. Tariffs. What's going on with tariffs? Everybody seems to be confused, and we're going to talk why it's a nothing burger. Indexes. We've seen indexes. We saw some announcements there again as well. This is getting pretty hot. Lots of activity around that area. And then lastly, go into the consumer confidence by the confidence board that came out earlier today. So we'll cover off those 4 topics. It'll be about 2 minutes each, and then go into Q&A. So let's kick it right off. I know you all are time constrained and super impatient, so I'm just going to dive right into it, and hope you find these pictures better and really, really good. So I think the first thing to me was really, I just finished, and we've been talking about this for a while, and if you watched the channel, you will have noticed that we talked a lot about the stablecoin industry going to 2 trillion in just 2 years, 2 and 2, right? So picture that, imagine what that means, and that rapid growth, right? And so I just put this together in a thought piece that we shared here on my Twitter page, but it's also on the Truth Network blog page, and it's on my LinkedIn page, and also on Medium. So you can follow this on multiple channels in more detail. But remember, Scott Bessent talked about the stablecoin framework will ensure financial institutions can offer dollar-backed digital assets in a regulated, secure manner. So ultimately, what's he doing? He's shifting the responsibility away from the Fed all the way to the states. So the states are now allowed to give and empower their banks to issue state dollar-backed digital currencies or stable coins. So that's it. And you can see this, local banks are struggling. They have a huge amount of debt. They're operating at about a 300 billion unrealized loss every single quarter. Why? Because they have to hold bonds to maturity that are earning maybe 0 to 1% interest. All the meanwhile, today I can get something at 4%. So the net value of that bond is going to be low par. And now imagine you can then actually mint stablecoins associated with those treasuries at par. That's going to create a boom for stablecoins. And I go into explaining why I think that's a boom and what's driving that, and why is that going to unlock economies by providing and injecting a huge amount of liquidity into the market. It's about liquidity. Liquidity in the markets and the economies matter. And if you've got a 6 trillion of 10-year bonds that need to be refinanced, this is a genius way of refinancing those loans. And that's where we come to the Genius Act. The Genius Act is basically a guiding and establishing national innovation, the guiding and for US stablecoins. So that is Genius Act, right? So it's genius that they created this Genius Act and came up with some words to justify it. And I have a future blog coming out where we compare the MiCA, which is the European equivalent, and the Genius, and who we think, or I think, is actually going to be the market winner because it's furnishing more innovation. I'll let you guess based on what I'm saying where this is going to go and who's likely to increase dollar dominance in the market. But anyway, 2 trillion in 2 years, and boom, guess what? You immediately see actions taking place where you have Custodia Bank and Vantage Bank coming together and at first bank issued stablecoin, permissionless blockchain. They're using the Ethereum chain to issue this stablecoin. So bang, wow, already there, out there. And by the way, the founder of Custodia Bank is a strong Bitcoin maxi. And so she's a big Bitcoin advocate and now using the Ethereum blockchain, which is interesting. Why is that so important? All of our wallets, non-custodial wallets, will now be able to integrate with an ERC20 enabled Custodia / Vantage Bank stablecoin. And they're in the state of Wyoming, super friendly state, very crypto friendly. I think Senator Loomis is from Wyoming. So hence you have a lot of support for doing something like this. But not only did the Custodia Bank and Vantage Bank do something like this, World Liberty Financial also announced the stablecoin USD1 on the BNB chain, so Binance chain. So that's super interesting, right? So wow, you're seeing a lot of new activity already starting to kick off, right? And launching new interesting stable coins out in the market there. So exciting to see a lot of activity. Check out my blog on the stable coins and how that goes to market. Let me know what you think. Please comment, please criticize, please subscribe. I've already got 4,300 views on this actual blog itself. I got 4 comments. I haven't even read the comments. Maybe I should have a look at what people are saying. I'm saying this, so I don't know where the comments are, but I'll have a look a bit later on. Big alpha. There you go. Truflation obviously saying this. Thanks, Samuel. This market is going to explode. It's the best way for the government to communicate with crypto in the short term. Big alpha. Thanks, John. Yeah, so everybody seems to like it, but yeah, 4,400 views. It's growing every single second. Thank you for all of you watching who I'm sure are clicking on this. Anyway, that's it around stablecoins. So I didn't want to go into too much more on stablecoins, but this place is going to boom and it's going to be the beginning of crypto where this is all going to go. Why? Because it's liquidity coming into crypto markets. So it's issuing new blockchain, Bitcoin enabled coins, and they're going to be dollar dominated. So crypto already, 99.6% of all crypto is US denominated stablecoins. Sorry, 99.6% of all stablecoins are US dollar denominated. That's going to stay strong and it's going to continue to dominate, which increases global trade, which is about 60% in US dollars or maybe 70%. It's going to go even higher as digital currencies get adopted for global trade. So that leaves next thing, right? We're talking about trade, global trade, and now we got tariffs. What is going on with tariffs, right? So everybody's really confused about tariffs, and tariffs are a small issue. They are not going to impact inflation. All of this liquidity, all of this shift in trade, in where you're doing the trade, in blockchain, how is that going to be computed? All of these old school stale systems that are tracking inflation and are calculating prices are using old school infrastructure. That's where the Truth Network comes in, got real time, both on-chain and off-chain aggregation of price footage and actual price feeds. So all of a sudden now we've got real time calculation of inflation, and that's going to be coming on-chain. But that liquidity injection is a much more important aspect and influence around inflation and the economy than tariffs. Tariffs are nothing burger. And we've been talking about this for the last month or so on this issue, that ultimately it is about reciprocity, right? So what you give me, I give you. Fair trade, right? I just want to be in a fair table. He calls it friends and foes mistreating us, right? And so if you listen to the statements and you listen to the narrative across the Treasury, across the government in the US, it's from Trump to Bessent to Lutnick to all of the counterparts at Musk that trade needs to be fair. And so that's all he's asking. Is that not fair? Wouldn't you ask the same of your friends? Sure, right? And that's what you would be going for. And I'm going to talk about China on Thursday. Why? Because China is really innovating, and I think we're underestimating the power and the progress and the status of where China is at. This competition and this Cold War as we talked about it in the Daniel DiMartino booth interview, that is going on right now between the US and China. And if we like it or not, it is a Cold War, but maybe it's not that cold and not that frosty as we saw between Russia and the US during the, I think it was Kennedy days, or what was the guy's name? I can't remember. The former president of Russia that was up against Kennedy, and he was about to put nuclear weapons on Cuba, and that created that whole issue. But anyway, either way, tariffs are coming, but it's impacting global trade. Why? Because the old school and the legacy investors that don't understand that we are in a significant transition to a digital economy where digital assets will be driving the future growth, and injection into liquidity will come at the digital level, and where the TradFi, the Federal Reserve, you will watch out for our insights into the Federal Reserve's role in the future. Will they still be relevant as digital currencies and trillions of dollars shift from the fiat world to the crypto world? What does that mean for the Federal Reserve, and how will they act? But either way, the old school is not understanding all of these issues. So one of the things that we've seen a big spike about, copper. Have you invested in copper? Did you buy copper mines? How are you investing in copper? But copper is nearly an all-time high amid tariff threats. Why? And so you look about, what does that mean? Where's this coming from? This is coming from the copper producers. They're in Chile, they're in China, they're in Canada, they're in, look who are here. China has 8%, Chile 27%. Is there a fair trade? Just think about common sense and apply common sense to your thinking as it relates to trade. So tariffs. Is the trade between Chile and the US fair? Is it reciprocal? If the trade is reciprocal, that won't have that much of an impact. Between China and the US, the trade is surely not reciprocal. A lot more tariffs on goods coming from the US to China than vice versa. Maybe they don't want to buy US products, but that's a whole different consumer discussion than actually putting up tariffs to avoid and block users in those markets to buy. And so that is something to watch out for. And that's the common sense question that you should be asking yourself. And you can see copper has been booming, right? You can see on Truflation.com, go check it out, copper futures. We have the price here. You can see where the source of the data is coming from. All of these details are now, and this metadata is getting here. So real time, live, you can ask more and more questions. And actually, we have 4 or 5 different providers for every single item that we track. So this will get deeper and deeper as the metadata associated with the composed data that we aggregate and display on Truflation.com is going to get be displayed here amongst these things. So you can see that here. But I think more importantly, right, as we go into where and what is copper used for, it's really used for batteries, right? AI production, et cetera, et cetera. But if you look at it, why conductivity, right? It's really good for conducting electricity. What does conducting mean? Transmitting. It's like a highway for electricity, right? And so if you look at that, one other thing, it's going to be used a lot in electric vehicles. Electric vehicles has been seeing a boom, and it's coming back. There was just an announcement, Volvo trucks are now using electricity, and they can recharge their electricity in 40 hours, but trucks go for miles and miles and miles. And if they only have 400, 500 miles that they can drive before they need to charge for 40 minutes, that may not get them far enough. I don't know, but ultimately Volvo has invested a lot in bringing electric trucks to the market, as have all the car manufacturers, as we all know. So what is in the car? So if you look at such an EV commodity index that Truflation has developed and just updated the methodology on, you can see in here the assets that are included. You can see in here the breakdown of those assets. So here you can see lithium, the biggest component is 41%, and raw material, copper, is 35% nearly of a total breakdown of the different types of electric vehicles that are out there and the components that go into those electric vehicles as they are produced. So all of that data is captured in this EV index and for you to be able to trade on. It is not yet available on some of the sites, but why an index is so important, right? And I just saw today, I don't know if you saw, but Trump just announced coming to indexes. So we've moved on from tariffs, going to indexes right now. And why are indexes so important? ETFs are a way for people to engage in new asset classes without necessarily always knowing the underlying, all the different parties, doing all the due diligence and the research in all the underlying assets that are bundled in to what is called an ETF, right? Electronic traded fund. And the funds today need to have assets in the underlying in order to give you the right to buy that. They settle daily, right? So at the end of every day, they need to then look, how many ETFs have I sold, or tickets to ETFs or funds have I sold, and what is in that fund? They settle that every single day. So they need to go buy some more of the components that are in there, ensure that they are balanced appropriately according to the weighting that is stipulated in the methodology, so that they can then keep that up to date. Those then get rebalanced on a quarterly basis, on a semi-annual basis, an annual basis. Those are all different types of ETFs with different type of management styles and different types of methodologies. They can be based on market cap. They can be based on market share or liquidity, volatility, et cetera, et cetera. Those are all elements that are input into an ETF in terms of how they are managed. But the interesting thing, Trump again is here with his Truth.fi, so Truth Social are doing a partnership with Crypto.com to actually bring an ETFs to the retail market. So people can now buy in ETFs through Crypto.com. Not today, because the biggest problem that all of these participants have is the fact, and so here you can see Made in America, right? They've launched an index already called Made in America. But the thing is, this will take 6 months, if not a whole year, to create this ETF. You need approval, you need documentation, you need licensing, and you don't even know yet if there is a retail appetite for such a product. Your gut is telling you today that you need that. And you have an approval process today that is way too long and way too costly, that only super rich people can afford to launch an ETF. So we have looked at Index.fund. You've heard of Index.fund if you've been watching this channel. And if you haven't, subscribe, like, and hit the bell button. Always get the notifications on YouTube. But in fact, follow us on Twitter. Much more important, much more relevant. We got a lot more traffic on Twitter. So that's where it matters. And that's where we post all of our updates anyway. So Index.fund, Truflation, Truth Network, as well as Nuon, by the way, which we'll talk about a bit later on, which is obviously a stable coin, giving you yield-bearing opportunities, as well as guaranteeing you as an insurance protection for inflation, against inflation. But either way, all of a sudden, you have these announcements around, we're going to create a Made in America index. Okay, good for you. We've already created one. Go to Index.fund. You can come to Index.fund right now, and you can see Made in America index. What is in there? Boom. I have XRP, Solana, Dogecoin. So all the digital assets that are made. It's ranked number 31. It has a return of 82%. Look at this amazing performance here. And versus, it's outperformed the S&P 500 by 182%. So yeah, anybody can create this. You can go and create one and blend equities. You can blend commodities. You can blend all sorts of elements into one index that you would consider Made in America. And by the way, this will now have, at the end of this week, we'll have 90,000 items for you to choose from. So you can mix and match however you want, get adoption, and launch it in 6 minutes at $100. That's all it costs you. And boom, you've got your own index, and people can bet on it up or down. Is it simple? Up or down? It'll go up or down. So very easy. But not only that, we're now launching on a number of other exchanges where you can then actually trade these as futures. Based on the demand, based on retail traction in the marketplace, anybody can then go and build an ETF associated with either of these indexes. Maybe you would decide to pay a royalty to the creator of such an index. And that's what index.fund is doing. If you have a great idea and it makes money, it gets traction, and people adopt it, then you should be rewarded for your creative deployment of the concept of an index, which then gets adopted, and the marketplace has traction, transaction volume. You should be rewarded for that. And so that is what we're making happen. And so this is ultimately an example of an index. So we are working with a professional index creator to build out such a tool. You can see they created the AI index. So Digital Asset Solutions, DAS, is the creator of this index. Can we see something about this? Maybe we see this now in the fact sheet. So going down here, this is the methodology. So they display how this works, the historical performance. You can see since 2023, it's been underwater, above water, underwater, above water, underwater, underwater, above water, above water. But the above waters are bang, 194% in that month. And the underwaters are just literally irrelevant. So just take a look. And here, built with Digital Asset Solutions. Great team out of Switzerland, ex-Credit Suisse Bank. Look what we have here. We have now a Perplexity integration. Amazing. So you can actually go and ask questions around this, and it's powered by Perplexity. So that's also coming. It will be coming to every single product very soon. I've given away too much. That's alpha for you. There you go. But here, the most important thing is I have down here the ability to follow the API. And so bang, I can now go to the Truth Network. On the Truth Network, I see exactly the same that you saw over there, fully transparent, on chain for anybody to vet. You can then see here the different assets, render, BitTensor, blah, blah, blah. These are all the elements in there. And I want to now integrate this into my exchange. Bang, I hit here, SDK. Oh man, I have a simple SDK on GitHub for Go, right? Golang, big programming language. And we were just talking to an amazing index, not developer, marketplace. So they create a great marketplace for all the coins. They have over nearly 1 million coins that they track. And so we're going to do some sort of really cool partnership, but they wanted Go, right? So bang, here you go. I could just show this to them. And guess what? They can copy and paste, hit the copy button, embed that on my site, and boom, I'm ready to go. And if you don't want it in Go, get it in TypeScript. Get it in RPC. You can even get that. You can get it in all sorts of different formats, APIs, and very soon we'll have this delivered to you as an API. So super cool. MDC, right? MPC. So really interesting aspects, MDC, sorry, coming to you very soon. So yeah, that's a lot of what we've been working on and continue to drive and scale literally for you as we move forward. So that's really everything around indexes. But one last thing that I wanted to cover off is really around consumer confidence board, right? I talked about it a bit earlier. How do I get rid of this bar? Man, these websites are all sort of fully loaded with advertising. So here, everybody's not confident in the future. So in March, it tumbled to 12-year low. So it's really come down. I mean, I don't know about 12-year low because this looks like the lowest point down here, which was 2020. So it looks more to me like I don't know. Yeah, that's COVID low. Let's say it's COVID low, right? So I don't know how accurate. Again, this is a survey. It goes out, asks people the same question. It feels very manual. This we've got to innovate in this and come up with a better sentiment calculation associated with how people really feel, because this is basically the same way that the BLS were tracking consumer prices. I just go onto a site and send somebody manual to the grocery store, track the prices manually on an iPad, 477 people tracking that, and then sending that, and then some people reviewing it, or even collecting the data manually. 6 months late, I then announce it as the new updated cycle. Here, people react very differently. There's how should I react? How am I thinking? it will react, and then how am I feeling? And we need to capture the feeling, because what this is ultimately trying to capture the feeling. Consumer confidence is about how am I feeling, right? And so how do we capture that? And the best way to capture that is to leverage social media as a sentiment calculation and tracker, to be able to aggregate this and come out with a much more accurate real-time reflection of how people are feeling. It will be much more volatile. You won't have to wait till a month. It moves up and down based on the trends and based on the current narrative and based on the activity. But it is ultimately a far greater reflection of the reality. And if you extend that over time, you have a much better feel, and the curve softens out. So when you look at it at an hourly rate, super spiky, or on a daily rate. If you look at a monthly rate, maybe a bit more volatile. And then over bigger periods of time, you see bigger shifts of trends. And so that's super interesting, and something to be aware of. And so, yeah, we're just working on that. And we're leveraging AI to do the sentiment. I've been talking about it for a while. You've been listening. So we've been really going deep into AI. We've done a lot of partnerships around AI because people are beginning to realize the power of the data on the Truth Network. Right, so I've just showed you some Explorer capability and the discoverability of it. You immediately go to an Explorer and you can find everything. You can follow everything. All of that is available for you to see and follow. And people are beginning to realize that. And we are trying to learn and partner with some of the best people out there in the AI space. And so we've been talking to a number of participants. You've seen the Perplexity integration. I already peaked on something around that. So there's going to be a bigger announcement around that. We've also got partnership with Novastro. Truth Network has been working with Novastro. So they are an RWA chain built on the Move VM, and they are leveraging AI as a means to then go through a lot of the data. So what we're trying to do is figure out, how do we leverage AI in that go-to-market? For us, it's always been around the adapters to integrate and compose data sets, and then also around the SDK and the distribution associated with that data sets to simplify the integration into LLMs associated with the data that we have. And so those are things that we've been working on, and now we want to go deeper. And so hence the different types of partnerships. But this consumer confidence index should be maintained and monitored based in real time, based on the sentiment. There you go. Powerful. Hope you enjoyed that. It was 27 minutes. Damn it. I'm not in the 10-minute spectrum. I need to take less content, and I need to shut up more and just get down to the point quicker. So Keyshawn Pettigrave, the app is going to print millionaires. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's, I think, index.fund that you're referring to. So stay tuned. Follow those assets. I'll see you again on Thursday. Have a great day, and thank you, everybody. Happy Tuesday, and see you on Thursday again. Bye for now.